the mockery, the grand assembly hall, the Stella. Confederation's assembly hall stretched across 3 kilometers of polished crystal and floating metal platforms. Thousands of beings from across the galaxy filled the massive space. Their forms varied. Wildly, some walked on multiple legs, others floated in containment fields, and many defied easy description. The air buzzed with translation devices working overtime to convert hundreds of languages into something resembling understanding. At the center of this cosmic gathering, a holographic display showed a small blue planet rotating slowly in the darkness of space, Earth. The third planet from an unremarkable yellow star in what the aliens called Sector 7 Alpha. The assembled delegates stared at the image with expressions ranging from boredom to outright disgust. Chancellor Vextel of the Dominion Council raised one of his forearms. His metallic exoskeleton gleamed under the artificial starlight, and his compound eyes reflected the holographic Earth like 1,000 tiny mirrors. When he spoke, his voice carried the authority of someone who had conquered 17 star systems before his 100th birthday. Fellow beings of the Confederation, he began, his words automatically translated into every language present. Today we discuss the fate of the species that calls itself human. After 5 cycles of observation, our xenobiologists and military analysts have reached their conclusions. A ripple of anticipation moved through the crowd. The Vorthok empires, representatives, towering creatures with crystalline bodies, clicked their approval. The slug-like Zalani collective pulsed with bioluminescent patterns of agreement. Even the energy beings of the Kethva dynasty flickered with what might have been amusement. The presentation of primitive humanity, the holographic display changed, showing images of human cities, space stations, and their modest fleet of exploration vessels. Commander Zixandra of the Vorthok stepped forward, her crystal form refracting the light into rainbow patterns across the assembly floor. "Behold," she announced, her voice like chimes in a windstorm, "the pinnacle of human achievement. They have barely managed to establish colonies on 3 planets in their own system. Their fastest ships require decades to travel between nearby stars. Their technology relies on crude chemical propulsion and primitive fusion reactors." Laughter echoed through the hall, though it came in many forms. The Vorthak's musical chiming, the Zalani's wet gurgling sounds, the Kethva's electrical crackling. To them, humanity was a cosmic joke. Dr. Thanarix, the Confederation's chief xenobiologist, materialized as a shimmering hologram beside the Earth display. His gaseous form swelled as he spoke. "Their biology is equally limiting. Humans live barely a century, require constant atmospheric pressure, and can only survive in an extremely narrow temperature range. They are, quite literally, the most fragile, intelligent species we have encountered." More laughter. Some delegates began making wagers on how long humanity would last once they were relocated to the reservation worlds. The Bloody Claw syndicates, representatives, predatory beings with too many teeth, suggested that humans might make interesting prey for their hunting expeditions. The catalogue of human failures. The presentation continued with what the aliens saw as humanity's greatest weaknesses. Their short lifespans meant they couldn't accumulate the centuries of knowledge that other species took for granted. Their emotional nature led to what the aliens called irrational decision-making, their tendency to form small tribal groups, instead of unified planetary consciousness, was seen as a critical evolutionary failure. "Observe their so-called creativity," said High Scholar Ventari of the Academic Consortium, her tentacles writhing with disdain. "They waste enormous resources on what they call art and entertainment. Their scientists pursued dozens of different research paths simultaneously instead of focusing on a single, logical progression. They even argue among themselves about fundamental questions that any mature species would have resolved millennia ago. The display showed human music, paintings, literature, and films. To the assembled aliens, these seemed like the random scribbling of children. They failed to understand that this very creativity was humanity's greatest strength, not its weakness. A particularly cruel moment came when Ambassador Krilltex of the Hive Worlds displayed recordings of human conflicts they cannot even achieve. Unity among their own species. In just the past century, they have fought 3 major planetary wars. They create weapons designed specifically to kill other humans. What manner of advanced species turns its intelligence against itself? The question hung in the air like a challenge. From their perspective, it seemed impossible that such a divided, short-lived, emotionally unstable species could pose any threat to galactic civilization. The quiet representative throughout this humiliating presentation, one figure sat in silence. At the designated human observation platform, Admiral Sarah Chen, Earth's official representative to the Confederation, watched the proceedings with an expression that gave nothing away. Her simple blue uniform stood out starkly against the elaborate, ceremonial garments worn by other delegates. She was 63 years old, ancient by alien standards, barely middle-aged by human ones. Her graying hair was pulled back in a practical bun, and her hands rested calmly in her lap. Several alien delegates had commented earlier that humans couldn't even be bothered to send someone impressive to represent their species. What they didn't know was that Admiral Chen had spent 40 years in Earth's most classified military programs. Behind her calm exterior was a mind that had helped design humanity's true defense systems. But she sat quietly, allowing the aliens to reveal their assumptions, their weaknesses, and their plans. The ultimatum Chancellor Vextal finally stood. His mechanical joints worry softly. The Confederation has reached its decision regarding the human question. Given their primitive technology, limited intelligence, and inability to contribute meaningfully to galactic civilization, we offer them 2 choices. The whole fell silent. Even the most arrogant delegates recognized this as a pivotal moment. First, Vextal continued, humanity may accept relocation to the designated reservation worlds in the Outer Rim. There, under proper supervision, they may continue their existence without interfering with the progress of advanced civilizations. Their planet Earth will be stripped of its resources for the benefit of species capable of using them efficiently. Angry murmurs rippled through the human observation areas scattered throughout the hall. Several Earth diplomats shifted uncomfortably in their seats, but Admiral Chen remained perfectly still. The alternative, Vextal's voice grew darker, is extinction. If humanity refuses to accept their proper place in the galactic order, the Confederation will treat them as a threat to civilized space. Their worlds will be sterilized, and their species will become a cautionary tale for other primitives who might consider resisting our authority. The silence that followed was deafening. 5,000 years of galactic history had shown that when the Confederation made such ultimatums, resistance was futile. Species far more advanced than humanity had tried to stand against the combined might of 12 spacefaring civilizations. None had survived. An unexpected response, lowly, Admiral Chen rose from her seat. The movement was so subtle that many delegates didn't notice at first. But gradually, conversations died away as beings became aware that the human representative was preparing to speak. Vextal gestured with one arm. The human delegate may respond to the Confederation's generous offer. Admiral Chen walked to the center of the platform with unhurried steps. Her voice, when she finally spoke, was quiet but somehow carried clearly throughout the vast hall. Honored delegates, she began, I have listened to your presentation with great interest. Your observations about humanity are ... illuminating. Several aliens exchanged glances. They had expected pleading, threats, or desperate negotiations. This calm acceptance was unexpected. You see us as primitive, emotional, and divided, she continued. You mock our short lifespans, our fragile bodies, and our chaotic creativity. You believe that our inability to achieve the unity you consider essential makes us inferior. Nods of agreement rippled through the crowd. Finally, the human was acknowledging reality. Admiral Chen paused, her grey eyes scanning the thousands of alien faces surrounding her. There is, however, one thing your 5 cycles of observation may have missed. And what might that be? Vextal asked, his tone suggesting he was humoring a condemned species. Asterisk. The human representative smiled for the first time since entering the hall. It wasn't a pleasant expression. You have been watching us for 5 cycles, she said. We have been watching you for 50. The seeds of doubt a confused murmur ran. Through the assembly, several delegates activated translation devices, convinced they had misheard. How could a species that had barely achieved faster-than-light travel have been observing advanced galactic civilizations for decades? Your surveillance drones are quite sophisticated, Admiral Chen continued conversationally, virtually undetectable by most species. But you made one critical error in your assumptions about human sensory limitations. She touched a small device. On her collar, instantly, holographic displays throughout the hall flickered and changed. Instead of showing human cities and ships, they now displayed detailed schematics of Vorthok military installations, Zalani breeding colonies, and Kethva energy harvesting operations. The silence in the hall became oppressive. These were classified installations, hidden behind the most advanced stealth technology the Confederation possessed. The idea that humans had not only found them but mapped them in detail was impossible. We may be short-lived, Admiral Chen said, her voice growing stronger, but we learn quickly. We may seem divided, but we unite when threatened, and you have just threatened us. Chancellor Vextal's compound eyes focused on the human with new attention. Impossible. Your technology cannot penetrate our security systems. You're correct, the Admiral replied. Our current technology cannot. But the technology we've been developing in secret for the past 50 years, that's a different matter entirely. Hidden depths deep beneath the Earth's surface, imbecilities that didn't appear on any map. Lights began activating for the first time in decades. Dr. Marcus Rivera, humanity's leading theoretical physicist, stood in the command center of Project Prometheus, humanity's most classified research initiative. Around him, banks of quantum computers hummed to life. Holographic displays showed the positions of every confederation. Ship within 100 light-years of Earth. Energy readings that had been dismissed as primitive reactor leaks suddenly revealed their true nature. Admiral Chen's signal has been received, reported Captain Zara Okafor, Earth's leading military strategist. All sleeper protocols are now active. Ghost Fleet is preparing for emergence. Dr. Rivera nodded grimly. They had hoped this day would never come. For 50 years, humanity had played the role of primitive upstarts while secretly developing technology that would make the Confederations advanced. Civilizations looked like Stone Age tribes. They had studied every alien ship, decoded every communication, and prepared for exactly this moment. Project Prometheus was named after the Titan who stole fire from the gods, he said quietly. Today, we're going to show the galaxy what humans can do when we steal their fire and improve upon it. The countdown begins back in the Confederation. Assembly. Admiral Chen was concluding her response to the ultimatum. The alien delegates listened in growing unease as she spoke with the confidence of someone who held cards they couldn't see. You have given humanity 10 cycles to accept relocation or face extinction, she said. We respectfully decline both options. Instead, we propose a third alternative. There is no third alternative, Vextal snarled, his mechanical voice betraying the first hints of uncertainty. There is now, Admiral Chen replied. We propose that the Confederation reconsider its assumptions about humanity. Take your fleets back to your home worlds. Forget about Earth and its resources. Find someone else to bully. The audacity of the statement sent shockwaves through the hall. No primitive species had ever addressed the Confederation with such casual dismissal of their power. And if we refuse? Asked Commander Zixandra, her crystal form flickering with indignation. Admiral Chen's smile widened. Then you'll discover why humans have survived every extinction event our planet has thrown at us for the past 1,000,000 years. You'll learn why a species you consider primitive has thrived in conditions that would kill most of you within hours. And you'll understand why our chaotic creativity has produced innovations that your rigidly structured civilizations never could have imagined. She turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and one more thing. Your deadline of 10 cycles. We're changing it to 48 hours. If your fleets aren't out of our system by then, we'll consider it an act of war. With that, Admiral Chen walked calmly out of the assembly hall, leaving 5,000 alien delegates in stunned silence. Behind her, emergency sessions were already being called. Fleet commanders were receiving orders to mobilize. The largest military force in galactic history was about to descend on a single blue planet in Sector 7 Alpha. What they didn't know was that humanity was counting on it. The revelation, the Armada, assembles 46 hours after Admiral Chen's unprecedented challenge to the Confederation. Space around Earth looked like a graveyard of stars. Over 500 warships from 12 different species had gathered in formation, their combined mass casting permanent shadows across Earth's continents. The fleet represented more firepower than had been assembled since the Great Purge that had eliminated the rebel synthesis species 3 centuries earlier. At the center of this massive armada, Chancellor Vextal stood on the bridge of the Dominion flagship Inevitable Conquest. Through the transparent aluminum viewports, Earth hung like a vulnerable blue marble. No defensive satellites were visible. No energy shields protected the planet's atmosphere. No fleet of human warships rose to meet them. Scans, confirm it, Chancellor, reported Commander Zixandra from her crystalline control station. The planet shows no military preparations. Their orbital installations have been abandoned. Their primitive space stations are operating on minimal power. It appears they have accepted the inevitable. Vextal's mechanical fingers drummed against his command throne. Something felt wrong. His military experience, gained through centuries of conquest, was sending warning signals through his enhanced nervous system. No species, no matter how outmatched, simply gave up without some kind of defense. What about those energy readings? Our preliminary scouts detected, he asked. Dr. Thanarix's gaseous form swirled near the sensor array. Still present, but unchanged. Our analysts believe they are simply the natural result of humanity's crude nuclear reactors. Their energy output is so minimal that it barely registers on our instruments. Through the communication systems, reports flowed in from the other ships in the fleet. The Bloody Claw Syndicate's hunters were eager to begin planetary bombardment. The academic consortium's scholars wanted to preserve some human specimens for study. The hive world's collective consciousness had already begun calculating resource, extraction schedules, the calm before on Earth's surface. The reaction was not what the aliens expected. Instead of panic or desperate last-minute defense preparations, an eerie calm had settled over human civilization. In major cities, people went about their daily routines. Children attended school. Adults worked at their jobs. The only signs of the impending crisis were the small groups gathered in parks and on rooftops, staring up at the alien fleet with expressions of quiet anticipation in the hidden command center beneath the Antarctic ice. Dr. Marcus Rivera monitored the situation with the detached fascination of a scientist watching a carefully planned experiment unfold. Around him, the most brilliant minds humanity had ever produced worked at stations that wouldn't be invented by alien civilizations for another 1,000 years. Ghost Fleet status, he asked Captain Okafor. All 37 vessels are in position. Within the quantum foam layer, she reported, the Confederation fleet hasn't detected them because, technically, they don't exist in normal spacetime yet. Dr. Rivera nodded. The Ghost Fleet was humanity's greatest achievement. Warships that existed in a state of quantum uncertainty, simultaneously present and absent until the moment they chose to materialize. It had taken humanity 40 years to master the mathematics. But the result was ships that could appear anywhere, anytime, without warning. Admiral Chen's communication is coming through, announced Lieutenant Tommy Nakamura from the communication station. She's aboard the lead Confederation vessel. Inside, the beast Admiral Chen had requested permission to board the Confederation flagship, ostensibly to negotiate humanity's final surrender. Vextol had agreed, curious to see if the human would finally show appropriate fear when faced with the reality of extinction. She now stood in the center of the Inevitable Conquest's command bridge, surrounded by aliens who towered over her small human frame. Her simple uniform looked absurdly plain next to their elaborate armor and technological enhancements, but her expression remained as calm as it had been in the assembly hall. Your deadline has expired, Vextol announced. Surrender now, and some of your species may be preserved for study. Admiral Chen checked her watch, an ancient mechanical device that seemed primitive compared to the quantum timepieces used by the aliens. Actually, you still have 97 minutes by my count, but I appreciate your eagerness. Commander Zixandra's crystal form flickered with indignation. Human, you stand on the bridge of the most powerful warship in the galaxy, surrounded by a fleet that could sterilize 1,000 worlds. Show appropriate respect for your betters. The Admiral looked around the bridge, taking in the advanced holographic displays, the quantum computing systems, the gravity manipulation controls. Impressive, she said finally. But I have to ask, where did you get all this technology? The question caught the aliens off guard. Vextol's compound eyes focused on the small human. We developed it over millennia of scientific advancement. Unlike your chaotic approach to research, our civilizations pursue knowledge through logical, structured methods. Interesting, Admiral Chen mused, because according to our analysis, about 60% of your current technology is based on innovations first developed by the ancients, that mysterious species that disappeared about 10,000 years ago. You've essentially been reverse engineering their artifacts for your entire recorded history. An uncomfortable silence fell over the bridge. This was classified information, known only to the highest levels of Confederation leadership. The fact that a primitive human possessed this knowledge was deeply unsettling. How could you possibly know that? Dr. Thanarix demanded, his gaseous form condensing with agitation. Admiral Chen smiled. Because, Dr. Thanarix, we've been reverse engineering ancient technology for 50 years. The difference is, we've been improving on it. The moment of truth, at exactly 48 hours after the deadline, Admiral Chen looked at her watch one final time. Well, gentlemen, ladies, and beings of indeterminate gender, your time is up. She touched the communication device on her collar and spoke a single word, Prometheus. What happened next would be remembered throughout galactic history as the moment humanity revealed its true nature to the universe. The first sign was the sensor arrays. Every ship in the Confederation fleet suddenly registered massive energy spikes appearing out of nowhere. The readings were so intense that several monitoring systems overloaded and shut down automatically. Impossible, Sixandra shrieked. Those energy signatures. They're off the scale. Then the ships appeared. They materialized out of quantum uncertainty like ghosts becoming solid. 37 vessels of impossible design, their hulls seeming to bend light around them. They weren't large, like the Confederation dreadnoughts. Most were no bigger than cruisers. But they moved with a fluid grace that defied physics as the aliens understood it. The Ghost Fleet had arrived. Technology beyond understanding, the lead ghost ship, designated Prometheus 1, took position directly above the Confederation flagship. Its hull appeared to be made of some material that existed partially in normal space, and partially in dimensions the aliens couldn't perceive. When Confederation weapons locked onto it, the targeting systems reported that the ship was simultaneously in 12 different locations. Captain Alina Vasquez, commanding Prometheus 1, opened a communication channel that somehow bypassed all Confederation encryption and broadcasting directly to every ship in the fleet. Attention, Confederation forces. Her voice was calm, professional, and utterly confident. You are surrounded by the Earth Defense Fleet. Power down your weapons and prepare to receive boarding parties. The absurdity of 37 ships ordering 500 to surrender sent ripples of disbelief through the alien fleet. Several Confederation captains began laughing, until their tactical officers reported what their sensors were detecting. The human ships weren't just faster and more maneuverable than anything in the Confederation fleet. They were operating on principles that violated known laws of physics. Their engines produced no detectable exhaust. Their hulls registered as both matter and energy simultaneously. Their weapons systems showed power readings that should have required the energy output of a small star. Fire on them, Vextor commanded. All ships, open fire. The Confederation fleet erupted in a symphony of destruction. Plasma cannons that could melt asteroids, gravity weapons that could crush planets, and antimatter torpedoes that could crack moons. All focused on the 37 human vessels. The weapons passed through the Ghost. Ships like light through water. The counterattack followed wasn't a battle in any traditional sense. It was a demonstration of technological superiority so complete that it redefined the aliens' understanding of what was possible. Prometheus 7, under Captain Ahmad Hassan, used something called a probability weapon that convinced several Confederation ships they had never been built. They simply ceased to exist. not destroyed but erased from reality itself. Prometheus 12 activated a dimensional anchor that locked 20 enemy vessels into a pocket of space-time where they could move but not fire, trapped like insects in amber. The most spectacular display came from Prometheus 23, which used a temporal loop cannon to trap an entire squadron of Vorthok dreadnoughts in a 10-second time loop, forcing them to repeat the same maneuvers over and over while human boarding parties materialized on their bridges. Within 15 minutes, half the Confederation fleet was either disabled, captured, or in full retreat. The remaining ships found themselves helpless against an enemy that could exist in multiple dimensions, manipulate time itself, and rewrite the laws of physics at will. The revelation, on the bridge of the inevitable conquest, the alien command staff watched in stunned silence as their invincible fleet was systematically dismantled by forces they couldn't comprehend. Admiral Chen stood calmly among them, no longer seeming like a primitive representative, but rather like a predator who had been patiently waiting for her prey to reveal themselves. "This is impossible," Vextor whispered, his mechanical voice barely audible. "No species can develop such technology. It violates fundamental principles of physics." "You're right," Admiral Chen agreed. "No single species could develop this technology. But humanity didn't develop it alone." She activated a holographic display that showed the inner solar system. Hidden bases appeared on Mars, in the asteroid belt, on the moons of Jupiter. Massive installations that had been completely invisible to Confederation sensors. Asterisk 50 years ago, when your species first began observing us, we made a discovery in the Kuiper Belt, the remnants of an ancient research station hidden in the shadow of a rogue planetoid. Inside, we found the true history of your Confederation. The display changed, showing historical records that predated known galactic civilization, images of the ancients working alongside primitive versions of current Confederation species, teaching them, guiding their development. The ancients didn't disappear, Admiral Chen continued. They evolved beyond physical existence, but before they transcended, they left behind instructions for the next species ready to inherit their legacy. Instructions that required specific qualities: adaptability, creativity, the ability to think beyond conventional limitations. The implications hit the alien commanders like a physical blow. The ancients had been testing species for 10,000 years, waiting for one capable of taking the next step in galactic evolution. "You chose us because we were primitive," Admiral Chen said, "because we lacked the rigid thinking that prevents advanced species from true innovation. Our chaotic creativity and emotional nature weren't weaknesses, they were exactly what the ancients were looking for." A new galactic order as the Ghost Fleet completed its capture of the Confederation armada. Admiral Chen made one final announcement that would reshape galactic civilization. "The old order dies today," she declared, her voice broadcast to every world in Confederation space. "Humanity offers the galaxy a choice: continue the cycle of conquest and oppression that has defined the past 10 millennia, or join us in building something better." The holographic display showed plans that took the aliens' breath away, technologies that could heal dead worlds, eliminate scarcity, and allow conscious beings to explore dimensions beyond physical reality. The ancients' final gift to the galaxy, unlocked by humanity's unique approach to existence. "The Confederation is dissolved," Admiral Chen announced. "In its place, we established the Galactic Cooperative, a union of species working together as equals. Guided by the principles the ancients died trying to teach you, that diversity is strength, that cooperation surpasses conquest, and that the measure of intelligence isn't how much you can destroy, but how much you can create. As rescue ships emerged from quantum space to tend to damaged alien vessels, as human medical teams boarded Confederation ships to treat the wounded, as Admiral Chen herself helped evacuate injured alien crew members, the former conquerors of the galaxy began to understand what they had encountered. Humanity hadn't just defeated them militarily, they had shown them a better way to exist. In the months that followed, species after species would petition to join the new cooperative. The Vorthok would contribute their crystalline architecture to building impossible cities. The Zolani would share their biological expertise to heal damaged ecosystems. Even the predatory Bloody Claw Syndicate would find new purpose as protectors of developing worlds.